Friends of model trains, welcome to another video in our Digital for Beginners series. This time we would again like to answer your questions and also explain what the difference between the black and white Z21 is. Because this question is asked a lot. I've written down some questions again, some came from the comments under the videos, but some questions I was asked at the info days or trade fairs. One question is, since the Z21 can also be used for the 3-conductor system, can the Z21 also MFX? All I can say to that is, no, it's not MFX capable at the moment, but maybe it will be in the future. Another question is whether you can also program ESU or lens decoders with the control center. Yes, you can use it to program any decoder, no matter who the manufacturer is. You can read out all decoders and also program them. The only thing is, this convenient programming function, such as controlling the volume with the slider, only works with Zimo decoders. This is unfortunately for licensing reasons. One request was for Z21 signals for the free signal box. To this I can only say, no, the free signal box will not be enhanced, it will remain at the current level. The current signal box is the schematic signal box, and new functions are also only integrated into this signal box. That brings me to the next question, will there also be a crossing at some point? Yes, with the last update, the crossing was added, among other things. The track occupancy sensor and other components can now also be rotated in the app at a 45 degrees angle. This means we have fulfilled some requests and adapted the app. Another question that comes up over and over, do you always need a booster if, for instance, you have a large system but only run 2 or 3 trains? If the voltage supply is sufficient, you don't need a booster. Another question was, what you can do if the voltage drops at a distance of 5 or 6 meters. In this case, you can feed the voltage back in twice, 3 times, 4 times. Basically, the simplest thing is to use a distribution strip. Either you make a screw terminal or a soldering strip, and then go from this soldering strip to the track over and over to feed in the voltage several times, because you only have one track output where you can screw in 2 to 3 cables. But due to the size, it will be cramped. That's why it's best to always make a distribution strip under the system. From this distribution strip, you can also supply turnout or signal decoders and so on. So just make a distribution strip and then a ring line from it. This connects the voltage supply around the system. You can use a somewhat larger cross-section, for instance, 1.5 square millimeters, and then feed it into the track from this ring line every now and then. You can use a connection track or solder directly to the rail profile, depending on what skills and knowledge you have. Then another question that has come up several times, how many boosters can you connect? Can you still use the old boosters? What actually can you connect to the Z21? To answer this, I recommend our Z21 digital brochure, which you can also download as a PDF from the website or get in print from your retailer. It explains the connection options of the Z21 and shows that you can still connect 4 of the boosters, 10765, from the old system or up to 7 boosters, 10805, 10806, 10807, from the current Z21 series. This is our current Z21 digital brochure, which has all Z21 components. This is available as a PDF download at www.roco.cc, www.fleischmann.de, or directly at www.z21.eu. Here you can see in the brochure a nice illustration of the connections of the control center and what you can connect to the booster output. For example, you can also see how many boosters you can connect, for example the 10,765 4 times and the 10805, 10806, 10,807 7 times, or also how many track occupancy sensors are possible. You will see the same thing in the overview of the black Z21, for instance what can you connect to which output and how often. Another question was whether you can use your own booster to supply points and signals with voltage. In short, you don't need a booster for that. If you want to supply turnouts and signal decoders, 10836 or 10837, separately, you do not need a booster, but only a power supply unit. You can connect the power supply unit directly to the output of the decoder, so no booster is needed. Another question that comes up a lot, you still have the multi-mouse amplifier 10761, 10764, or perhaps the Rocomotion 10785, how can you expand them with wireless control? Direct expansion isn't possible. You would have to replace the control center station with a Z21, and then, as I mentioned earlier, you could continue to use the existing boosters and decoders. You would just have to replace the old control center with a Z21. The next question is related to this. If you replace the control center and change from an amplifier to a Z21 or from a white to a black Z21, is all the data lost? No, the data is stored either in the MultMAUS or in the Z21 app. This means that you can connect the track, switch from the amplifier to the control center or from the white Z21 to the black Z21, plug the mouse back in, and all the data is there and you can then continue to control the system directly. Here's something that I also read under a lot of videos. Under the German videos, it often says, "Please give us an English version." Under the English videos, it sometimes says, "Please give us a German version." Just take a look. All videos in the Z21 series are available in both German and English. So just enter Roco or Fleischmann in the YouTube search at the top, click on videos, and then the English and German videos are actually always next to each other. You can then choose the language you want. And now the last question in this round, what is the difference between the black and the white Z21? I can briefly explain that to you in theory, but I also have the control center with me and can show you the differences. First of all, there are two whites, the white with start and the white without start. The one without start already has Wi-Fi. With the Z21 with start, the network socket has to be activated in order to use Wi-Fi. This means that there is the Z21 start combined with the Wi-Fi package and the Z21 in white without start. So these two control centers are technically the same. And then there is the black Z21, which always comes with Wi-Fi, so there is nothing to activate. But for large railways there is also the Z21 XL, which has the same connection options as the black Z21. The main difference between white and black is the connection options of the two control centers. I will now explain them. The routers are always identical, so we can put them aside for now and look at the two white control centers. If I turn them over, we see that the connections are identical. So I can set aside one control center. This has already been briefly explained once in the video about the Z21, but here is the connection for the power supply unit. Next to it you will find the 2-pole screw terminal with the track output. And then here you see the booster output for the power circuit extension, the R-bus for the track occupancy sensor, and here the LAN socket for the Wi-Fi router for wireless control. If you put the black Z21 next to it, you can see the difference very well. Here you have considerably more connection options. Here again is a connection for the power supply unit. The black Z21 comes with the large 3-amp switched power supply. The white Z21 control centers always come with the 2-amp switched power supply. That means I already have 1 ampere more power here, but I can also retrofit the large power supply unit to the small control centers. Next to it you can see the track output like with the white one. But then there is a separate programming track. This means that one section of the system can be separated into 2 poles. To do this, 2 insulating connectors must be installed at the front and back. You can use this section normally during operation, and when you go into the programming menu, the main track output is switched off and only the programming track is addressed. Then you don't have to take any vehicles out of the system and can program directly on the programming track. Then you can see the so-called sniffer bus. You can use it to connect an old control center. For example, if you still have a Rocomotion or an old Fleischmann twin center and want to keep using it. To do this, connect the track output of the old control center to the sniffer bus and can then continue to use the old control center. The data is then passed on by the Z21 via the track and you can continue to use the control center. Then you have the booster output here like with the white one. Next comes the LocoNet. The LocoNet is a much more powerful bus system than the R-Bus. You can connect LocoNet devices here, for example from Uhlenbrock. Then you have the R-Bus here like with the white one for the feedback module. Next I have an X-Bus connection. This is a mouse connection like you also have two of at the front of the control center. So theoretically you could connect another X-Bus device at the back, like another multi-mouse. The LAN connection is the same for both, but then you have the CAN bus connection. CAN bus is a much more powerful bus system, which is especially useful for the occupancy message. When does it make sense to switch from the white to the black Z21? For instance, if you have a system that you want to control with a PC, you are limited to a maximum of 160 signaling sections with the R-Bus. In other words, you can connect the 16-fold track occupancy sensor 10 times, and you will then have 160 sections monitored until the capacity is used up. Then you could switch to the black Z21, connect the R-Bus here, continue to use the track occupancy sensors and can then continue with the CAN bus track occupancy sensor, 10,808. This means you can monitor up to 2040 sections in total, which is considerably more than with the R-Bus. The CAN bus can also be expanded or amplified. Our so-called CAN hub is used for this purpose. This gives you the option of wiring track occupancy sensors in a star configuration. With the R-Bus, we remember that you have to connect all the track occupancy sensors one after the other, and here I can also do the whole thing in a star configuration. A maximum of 7 boosters can be connected to the booster output. Up to 20 boosters can be connected with the CAN bus using the CAN hub, and 45 additional track occupancy sensors can also be used. With another CAN hub, you can connect another 45 track occupancy sensors. That means the CAN bus is suitable for large systems without any problems. Another advantage of the CAN bus is that it can handle Railcom feedback. This means that the locomotive can also send data back to the control center or the track occupancy sensor. This means that you can not only display the occupancy message with the Z21 app, but it also takes the locomotive image from the library and displays the locomotive with an image, and with the locomotive address of the respective section. So these are the differences between the black and the white Z21. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in and see you next time.